quick look at this scene. You can see that there's some jitter, but that's about it. That's about how good it gets when it comes to ClothFX without, for example, mixing two MDD files later on. So, of course, this is for this kind of cloth. If you want really thin cloth, then I would just recommend using displaced geometry, cloth geometry. It's actually modeled geometry cloth instead of simulation. But yeah, for this kind of look, this is pretty much what we got. You can see I'm using a MDD file here to play that back, clear motion, so we can have a look at the settings. The settings are actually just cut and thin with a few different settings, so that's it. I got resistance, high resistance, and it's using this weight map. So when I calculate, it actually reduces some of the jitter in this chest area, but that's about it. I'm using a low-res object to drive the high-res, so yeah, so that's just an OpenGL bug. So this one has a cloth, while this one is a high-res object, and it's using MetaLink. This is just a small test displacing this area. So you can see how that works. It's just a small test, really. Don't mind that. But yeah, this high-res object is using MetaLink. And for MetaLink to work, this main object cannot use sub-D. Not in high-res, on high-res objects anyway. By the way, when metalinking, remember to parent to the ClothFX object. Looking at ClothFX settings. No, we already did that, didn't we? We can have a further look at the collision offset. Didn't talk about that, and the resolution. That's missing. So first off, the collision object, if it's high-res like this, it's going to cause more problems. It's going to cause more bugs and ClothFX explosions. That doesn't calculate. So for this one, I actually used a stand-in object. The low-res one looks like that. And that calculates faster and also more accurate. So you would think that high-res is better, but not in this case. For this one, the cloth object, it has to be quite far away from the main object. If it's not, then you will have problems calculating it. So make it puffy, like this. And again, the cloth object does not have sub-D, should not have sub-D. And the MetaLink object is high-res and has sub-D. So we can adjust that later on. One benefit though, since the cloth is so far, has such a big distance to the object, the character, we can use a very high resolution and calculate this simulation fairly fast. So that's a plus. Of course, using ClothFX, you can get bugs all the time. Notice that I'm not using fixed settings or any weight maps to the cloth here, except from this chest area here. The reason for that is to make this cloth look really like it has a lot of folds and wrinkles. It's kind of like a limitation, though, to the resolution. Higher resolution than this can be problematic when it comes to calculating. For example, when a vertice hits another vertice, in ClothFX it will lock, so you'll have a calculation error. So there are quite a lot of gotchas. The collision offset is pretty much what you see here. You'll just exaggerate that offset. If I set this to a high value. So I don't really need any high value to this now, as I already did that in Modeler. And by the way, setting this to high value in layout is not exactly the same. You will get more errors, it seems, by pumping this up in layout. I don't know why. Collision, nothing special. Default settings only that this is set to 100. Make sure that's 100, not 200. If this high-res object, the MetaLink object, of course we've got MetaLink here, smoothing on, yep. And it's parented, like I said, to ClothFX object. Now the thing though is that, wait a second, load an already calculated MDD. Thing though is that even though I metalink this, let's take that metalink object, and that has subd, right? But even though if I push that up to 2, for example, you'll see that, well, I mean, you can do it, but I don't think that provides a better look unless you're going for something special. So it has this small, unnatural, hard wrinkles, so it's better to lower that actually to 1, so it smooths that out. When you calculate any simulation, then you're going to cut away the 30 first frames, because those are kind of like temporary frames where the cloth gets to rest. And then from there on, you render it. So you always need to calculate like 30 frames first or something like that before you start rendering. So you can see, well, this is pretty much as good as it gets, I think, when it comes to ClothFX. I'm curious though too if I can calculate 2 MDD files and then mix those 2 MDD files, and then it should give a better result because it will smooth out the jittering from those 2 MDD files. It will create an average. So you should have less jitter. Not going to do that now though, but yeah. There are also ways to, after having run MDD on this, after having MD scanned it, you could fix the outer areas. With MDD active, you could fix the outer areas and then just put on cloth in an area where you have jitter. Problem with that is that it works so-so because it kind of like smooths out the area no matter what. So it's not really a good solution, only in a few cases. But anyway, this is ClothFX, and you should really consider using Bullet for this kind of simulation, or perhaps mixing, do a Bullet simulation first and then MDD scan it, and then apply ClothFX to certain parts. The other option is to use Cyflex. But yeah, just thought I'd show this kind of like worst case scenario thing using ClothFX. And again, if you have thin cloth, then just model it in 3D coder or whatever and just schmack it on. Don't simulate it. Maybe just simulate lower arms or something like that. And perhaps this lower area of the jacket. You would do that by fixing the upper area after having MDD scanned. No, actually, not after having MDD scanned. If it's a thin cloth object, then you wouldn't probably MDD scan at all, because you would probably not use MetaLink. Well, actually, maybe you would. Anyway, was that right? Maybe. I'm getting tired. So yeah, just notes on ClothFX. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong when doing this. And also, the resolution here is set to 100, but I'm not sure if I mentioned that in this video. It calculates very fast, and the reason why you can have such a high value here is because you have such a high distance between the cloth and the object. So that's why you can have a high resolution. This is 100 though, that's very high. Probably I should have set that to 50, but in a test I did, it did work without ClothFX exploding all over the place, so just kept it to 100. If the simulation doesn't work out, then that's definitely something you should check. There's a gazillion other things that could go wrong though, so. But anyway, I wanted to show how to create soft looking cloth. And this is the way to do it, and this is pretty much the result you will be able to get from ClothFX.